SimPvP is a survival Minecraft server which has existed on the same map since 2011. Over the course of 8 years, the server has developed a unique history. Come explore the various chapters of that history in these episodes of The Complete History of SimPvP.
I don't know why, we may not be perfect, but heaven knows we try. But all around, even our old friends put us down. Let's drop the big one and see what happens.
And so, picking up where we left off, the Dark Ages ended. The main groups of the Dark Ages still existed, but in the coming age, the First Burning Age, as it's called by the SimPvP Wiki, things are about to get a little more complicated. In the previous episode, I talked about how Fluzz now had a very strong disdain for MC Mafia. That hatred never really goes away. In fact, it eventually leads to the destruction of Sicily, a base founded by Odinfire under the protection and membership of MC Mafia. The base was griefed by Mr. Holedigger and Fluzz himself, for the reasons that were previously stated. Other small groups began to arise during this period as well. A player by the name of Bloodlucky founded the Bloodlucky clan, and his base had a capital at Bloodfork. Later on, the established group, Les Mongoloides de Julio, headed by Hugo Bros 3, became embroiled in a quote-unquote vicious war with Bloodlucky clan, and subsequently led to the griefing of Bloodfork. However, in this new fish-eat-fish environment, Les Mongoloides de Julio was later griefed and abandoned as a clan by the newly found group Fish, quite fittingly. Fish-eat-fish, whatever, nobody laughed. Pippenger, who had supported Bloodlucky, founded the base Verinum in the summer of 2015. Now, Pippenger in the Burning Age is going to be a very important character. He's been around for previous episodes, but it's only here where the child of his mind comes to fruition, if you will. Now, previous to this, Pippenger had tried to take over the server per se with his former clan, the Empire, but a lack of enthusiasm on the part of his fellow members and the griefing of many of his bases led to the demise of the Empire. This was discussed in previous episodes in the series, and all took place between 2013 and 2014. From 2014 to late 2015, the Pippenger account proper per se founded 2 large bases. Firstly, Agercell, and secondly, Verinum. Now, there's no direct evidence for this, but it's highly implied by the wiki in many places that Pippenger was attempting to ally with any new strong players who were forming groups. This was so that when they needed him for assistance, they would merge with his existing player infrastructure and create a much stronger, more powerful group. Perhaps this is what he was attempting to do with Bloodlucky. But there was another player that he did in fact do it to, and that was Sir Trashington. Sir Trashington founded the Order, and his small group was helped out a lot by Pippenger and his at-the-time allies. Later, when the Order's capital base was griefed, Pippenger incorporated the Order into his new group, the Principate, and the two became one, with many of their members joining each other respectively. One thing that may be an important factor in what is to come is that the Order was in fact not only allied with Pippenger, but with the members of Nara, most notably Odinfire. Once again, we see this connection between Pippenger and his groups and MC Mafia and its bases. By October, all of the members of the Order who would transfer themselves to the Principate had. In November, the Principate began incorporating other affiliate or related bases. Now, interestingly enough, they incorporated Nos Astra. Nos Astra was founded in 2014 by Dakadoc, the same person who griefed the Order's main base. What exactly made him invite all 6-6, a prominent member of the Principate, to his base, which subsequently led to his base being taken over by the Principate, is beyond me, but that is in fact what happened. Ascaris was more easily assimilated into the Principate. After that, the Principate began to have its eyes set on other, smaller up-and-coming groups, namely, Nameless, the new group with a very good-looking base, Gregoria, aka the Flying Donut Base. It is as it is described in its name. Unbeknownst to anyone else, all 6-6 had an alt that was doing secret work inside the group of Nameless, and this alt was Blue Oyster Cultist. This was used to get access to Gregoria, their capital. And, well, I already made a video about this, so I'll just let my past self explain this. In late December of 2015, two members of the Principate, Porkington and Sir Tashington, attacked the capital of Nameless. The Flying Donut Base was subjugated and renamed to Gregoria. The inhabitants of Gregoria, aka the former Nameless members, were then forced to either abandon their builds or pay taxes and allow the Principate to use all of their facilities. Not much of a real choice. So something that's important to the context of this entire event is the actual members of Nameless themselves. They were mostly Swedish players, and one of them in fact was iQuint, or as he was known back in the day, Quint, or I guess today as iQuint SFR. iQuint was actually an original member of the Empire, which was Pippinger's first attempt at a group on SimPvP. Interestingly enough, other members of Nameless includes former members of MC Mafia. These include the player Miniwimmy, as well as Infamous 2. The players Cracky Joe and M Bricks also are of particular interest. These disgruntled former Nameless members banded together and formed the Blue Orchid Cult, dedicated to resisting against the Principate. The Blue Orchid Cult would go on to wait until mid-January of 2016, when, at that point, they discovered the coords of Verinum and Dakadok's city, Nos Astra. The BOC, as it was commonly referred to, then proceeded to grief both of those bases. While these griefs did strike a significant blow against the Principate, it failed to deter the Principate from its more sinister plans. The real decisive moment was yet to come. A player by the name of Fluzz43, who had helped out the Blue Orchid Cult earlier, then proceeded in late January of 2016 on the SimPvP forum to dox Pippenger by revealing images of his face, along with some accurate and inaccurate information about Pip. Now, in the video I actually slightly get this wrong. I don't actually know if Fluzz was allied or helping the Blue Orchid Cult at all, really. Just that this event did help the Blue Orchid Cult out a lot. Now, for instance, the question of why Fluzz doxed Pippenger is really unknown, and one could speculate on a great number of things. In all honesty, Fluzz probably did it just to troll Pippenger, as Pippenger was known to have very funny and humorous reactions to trolls being done to him. However, if it wasn't done just to troll Pip, then it may have been done because, as we all have talked about before, Fluzz hated MC Mafia, and if MC Mafia, as is stated on their wiki page, was allied with Pippenger and his groups, then it stands to reason that perhaps Fluzz thought a friend of my enemy is my enemy. The inaccurate information about Pip was highly insulting and incriminating. Therefore, Pippenger, in response, no longer wanted to play on the server and associate himself with such people. This event led to Pippenger quitting the server altogether for a very significant amount of time. He then revealed all of his alts. Pippenger, a significant member of the Principate, was also the same player as Porkington, and all 6-6, as well as Bloister Cultist. And those are just some of the well-known alts. It was also reported that he had many alts, which resided in many of the main factions of the server at the time. And his plan was to ultimately bring all of these factions under his control. This is where the prominent SimPvP meme comes from, wherein you refer to any new player who joined the server as an alt of Pippenger, or just Pippenger himself, and then confuse the heck out of them. Anyways, after this exchange, the admins decided to put into effect a new rule on the server, Rule 3, no doxing. So all of that was on my video about the Great War of SimPvP, and the subsequent rule, Rule 3, that was created in its wake after doxing became rampant. Well, not rampant, just one instance, but you get the idea. In addition to this, after the successful takeover of Gregoria, Pippenger had further plans to infiltrate Morlock's castle, the, at the time, mostly largest base on the server, pretty much. He attempted to trick players who had the coords using, quote-unquote, according to the wiki, name-changing trickery. This implies that he would change his name to something similar to another member who had the coords already, and slip into the DMs of the others and try to convince them that they are that person. Don't know if that's true, but it paints a pretty interesting picture of this time period, if it is true. Now, towards the end of this entire event known as the First Great War of SimPvP, there began to grow other groups. Mainly, I'm speaking of Mr. Strawman's group, New Valhalla. New Valhalla and the Principate had been on the same side of the Great War of SimPvP. In addition to this, Clipchip, one of the founding members of a new group, Trump City, merged the two together as they were falling into despair. He continued the old feud between his side and the Blue Orchid cult, as he favored Pippenger. The new group, Trump City, which was founded by Clipchip, was comprised of members from the former New Valhalla, founded by Mr. Strawman, and the former Principate. Now, the Blue Orchid cult did not just fade away. It continued to gain prominence on the server, up until 2016, when it encountered open aggression from the new Trump City. By mid-2016, this conflict grew into the Second Great War of SimPvP, which culminated in a series of events which led to Clipchip raiding most, if not all, of the BOC's main bases. This led them to be crippled and thus disbanded. In addition to all this crazy conflict, there were also other projects being done in and around Spawn, with various bases being completed. It's worth mentioning that the original goal of the Order and the Principate was to create new bases and restore old ones, and they did a great job of doing that. But even after their collapse, there were other prominent Spawn fixtures being built that are recognizable to this day. Firstly is Indigo 11's castle, a vast castle built very close to Spawn, and secondly is Letargirio's Tower. The final event, or burst of action in this age, was the attack on Trump Tower, the capital city of Trump City, by Fluzz, who discovered its location in January of 2017. Now, the BOC was long gone, but Fluzz, a former ally, took his revenge on Clipchip by destroying his city, Trump Tower. The end of the first Burning Age was signified with the creation of Valorin by Morlock, and, well, I hope you've enjoyed, cause that's pretty much it. I have been Lord Pasta, and I will see you next time. Goodbye.